James Comer. Congressman, a lot to unpack in this bill, a lot of places that we could go. I want to start on the IRS front because you can ask Ashley. I basically accosted her in the elevator, my hair on fire, complaining about this IRS thing. My question for you, you know a little bit more about this stuff than me. If I'm a taxpayer who plays by the rules, do I have to worry about the 87,000 new IRS agents looking for something to do that might say, let's audit Pyro?
Yes, you should worry, because with all these new IRS employees, they're going to try to prove their worth. So they're going to go after every American to try to prove their worth, to show that they did indeed bring in more revenue. And, you know, when you look at who they're going to go after, it's very difficult and very time-consuming to go after the largest income Americans and the big corporations. They're going to be going after the waiters and waitresses at the restaurant. They're going to be going after the people who are living paycheck to paycheck because they know they don't have the attorneys to fight all the audits and all the IRS harassment. So this is more bad news for hardworking, tax-paying, average working Americans who are barely getting by.
And speaking of barely getting by, that brings me to the question of inflation. Even the Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Connecticut admitted that this bill is actually, it's going to be delayed for reducing inflation for at least a year. Take a listen.
How long is it going to take to reduce inflation?
It may take a year or more. We've seen gas prices come down week after week after week for the last 5 weeks in a row. Gas in Delaware is now below $4. Yes, inflation is higher than it should be.
And I do want to correct that. He is, Coons is actually from Delaware. But getting to the point, what does this mean for Americans? Because you see this huge package, this dollar amount that is astronomical. And here we are hurting at the pump, at the grocery store, just trying to put food on the table. But yet we're going to be funding the IRS.
Well, this is another example of the Democrats being tone deaf. The Democrats are banking their whole political future this fall on the hope that America is financially illiterate. I don't think they are. I think most Americans realize that if the government spends more money and spends more money recklessly and unnecessarily, then that's going to lead to more inflation. So the sheer nature of the bill, by its name, Inflation Reduction, is being untruthful to the American people. And I think the American people get it. The government cannot continue to spend money and waste money and expect for inflation to go down. The reverse is going to happen, and this is a very bad bill for the working Americans.
Let's pop up on the screen the various aspects of this, breaking it down into three key categories. Remember the total, $739 billion. That includes $369 billion. It's called energy security and climate change. Basically, that means stimulus package for rich people so they can get a Tesla. $313 billion, 15% corporate minimum tax. That's basically going to cut jobs because those companies are going to have to find the revenue somewhere. And the $124 billion IRS tax enforcement that we already mentioned. There's talk on the Democrat side that this is good for seniors. Senator Rick Scott said this is going to be a war on seniors. Explain why you think Senator Scott is right.
Well, he's right, because the Democrats are not going to give up on this Green New Deal. This Green New Deal is not working. The only reason gas prices have gone down is because it's basically supply and demand. The economy is hurting so bad. We're in a recession, regardless of whether or not the Democrats change the definition of a recession. The real wages go down every day when inflation goes up. So this is a burden on all Americans, on seniors living on fixed income. This is a burden on working Americans. This is a burden on the next generation of Americans who are going to be graduating from college and entering the workforce. This is a bad bill, and it's just very disappointing that the Democrats would continue to shove something like this through on a partisan basis. Remember, not a single Republican voted for this in the Senate, and I'm pretty confident not a single Republican will vote for it in the House later this week.
Yeah, and we'll see that come to a head here in just a few days, potentially. Now, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is saying the chamber's investigation into Hunter Biden will include a probe of U.S. intelligence agencies. I want to read this quote from Leader McCarthy. It says the House probe of Hunter Biden will expand to U.S. intelligence agencies and chiefs who were almost certainly aware of his shady foreign activities while his father was vice president. They should come in and talk to us. You'd want to ask these individuals, what did they know and when? So even if they do come in and sit down, what can we expect from them to say about this?
Well, we have a lot of questions. I mean, the things that we've been looking into on the House Oversight Committee revolve around Hunter Biden's 150 suspicious activity reports. These were issued by banks. And remember, this is the bank notifying the federal government that we're pretty certain our client is committing criminal activities. These were committed when Joe Biden was vice president. So the intelligence community had to know that Hunter Biden was doing things that were so bad that at least 5 banks notified the federal government of criminal wrongdoing. So we want to know why the intelligence community issued that statement. Who led the letter? Was this someone in the intelligence community, or was this someone in the Biden campaign? Because with respect to the intelligence community, this is at best incompetence or worse, a cover-up. Either way, it's unacceptable. And Republicans, when we retake the majority in January, we're going to find out who's at fault and try to hold someone accountable.
To that last point, Congressman, how much trouble could those intel chiefs be in?
Well, I hope they're in a lot of trouble. What we need to do is figure out what happened. If there was a loophole that allows them to get by with this by pleading ignorance, then we need to change the law, because this intelligence community has had a run for over a decade. Remember, there were intelligence leaders telling me, anyway, in Congress, that they felt like the Afghan government would fight back. Then they felt like the Ukrainian government would flee like the Afghans did. So the intelligence community has been making mistakes dating all the way back to Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. But here, with what's happened in Afghanistan, with what's happened in Ukraine, they were totally wrong on it. And now with Hunter Biden, we know, and more information is coming in every day, that this guy was a crook. He's been influence peddling all over the world, but yet the intelligence community, right before an election, issues a statement saying, no, this is Russian disinformation. This is another bad hit, along with things like the Russian dossier, the Steele dossier, another bad hit on our intelligence community, and we need to make some changes in the intelligence community, and hopefully Republicans will do that when we retake the majority.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. We'll see. Congressman James Comer unpacking a lot for us, a lot of important issues on this Monday morning. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.